The incredibly twisted, disturbing, and yet painfully, and the University of Nevada, upon realizing the gravity of the tragedy fueling their sales, discontinued the hoodies. The story behind the Nevada hoodie is a tale of murder. But that word fails to capture the shocking tragedy that occurred, nor can it fully
Okay.
represent the social degradation and degeneracy that consumed people in the months and years that followed the crime. Welcome back to Twisted Minds.
Shout out to Twisted Minds. Free use.
My name is James, and today we're going to dive into the
Shout
incredibly
out to you,
twisted,
James.
disturbing, and yet painfully tragic case of Nevada Tan.
The case of Nevada Tan.
Our story begins on the 21st of November, 1992, in the Sasebo region of Nagasaki, Japan. It begins with a girl that the world has come to know as Nevada Tan, but whose actual name the Japanese government refused to reveal because the country's laws prohibit the identification of juvenile offenders. During the investigations that followed Nevada's crime, and just before she went viral, the media called her Girl A. But as soon as the internet caught on, she was given the nickname Nevada Tan. To avoid any confusion, this is what we will continue to call her. To say that Nevada had a normal childhood would be an understatement. While it is difficult to know what happens behind closed doors, we know from her account, the testimonies of her parents, friends, neighbors, and teachers, that very little was odd about her childhood. Oftentimes, a telltale sign for budding killers can be found in the way they treat their pets. But Nevada had a cat that she loved and cared for. Her home was happy, her parents were together, and they loved their daughter unconditionally. Teachers who had watched Nevada grow spoke of her as an extrovert, fun-loving, and perfectly settled into whatever social landscape toddlers and kids.
She's a complete opposite of a serial killer. That's what he's saying right now.
Below the age of 10 have. Everything and probably everyone fascinated her because they also spoke about how inquisitive she was. She explored her talents until she discovered her love for drawing, her athleticism, and her subsequent love for basketball, which earned her a place on the school's basketball team and enabled her to represent her school in local competitions. It might sound like I'm trying a little too hard to paint Nevada's childhood as perfect, but believe me, I am not. You probably can recall some kids from your childhood that fit this description.
True.
They were cool, full of energy, and looked like their future would be brighter than the sun itself. That was Nevada Tan's childhood in a nutshell.
That's
and
true,
to put a cherry on
bro.
top, that was her young life. Nevada also
Like, yo, when people be young, they have all this energy, always happy, until the real world just hits, bro, and like, bro, you just get depressed, you don't know what to do, and that shit sucks, bro, because a lot of people go through that shit, bro.
happened to be a genius. She had an IQ of 140 and was top of her class in every school term. Everything was going swimmingly well for Nevada, until it was not. Parenting is not easy. For those of you that have kids, you know well that no one hands you an instructional manual for handling your little ones. There are no guidelines, and most parents resort to their values, instincts, and their country's constitution when raising their kids. So, you can understand how confused Nevada's mom must have felt when her brilliant daughter came home at the end of a school term with terrible grades. Out of nowhere, her academic performance had plummeted. What happened? For Nevada's mother, distractions were the primary reason her daughter's education was suddenly suffering. Extracurricular distractions, to be precise. Every leisure activity now posed a threat to her daughter's academics. The basketball, the arts, the hangouts, all of that had to end so that the little girl could get enough time to study her books and improve her grades. From being an outdoors kid, she was forced to stay indoors and study. While her mother promised to cut down the restrictions once her grades improved, not everyone responds properly to the cold turkey approach. I'm saying all this because what lies ahead raises more questions than it answers. Maybe if Nevada's mom had tried to break down what went wrong and tried to find some balance between her academics and hobbies without completely restraining her from the life she was used to, maybe she might not have gotten entangled in the tragic mess that took over her life a little over a year later. But I would be the last to blame Nevada's mother. The woman did what she thought was right, with the best intentions for her daughter at heart. So Nevada started her new life behind closed doors, and unsurprisingly, she wasn't doing much studying in the beginning. At first, she daydreamed about all the fun she was missing out on. her schoolmates who were having fun without her, and the basketball team she was no longer a member of. In class, it was difficult for her to relate to some of the conversations, and with time, Nevada would begin to feel like a stranger in her own class. Through all of this, Nevada had a friend who had been by her side from the early days of her life and who eased the discomfort of her newfound isolation in the early days of her academic year. The name of this friend was Satomi Mitarai. Satomi Mitarai was Nevada's classmate and best friend. Before Nevada got
Is that a fake name too?
The two girls were often seen walking together, were on the same basketball team, attended art class together, and shared many other activities. However, Satomi's happy school life hid a terrible loss her family had suffered just 2 years before. Her mother passed away after a long battle with cancer, leaving her father, Kyoji Mitarai, who was the chief editor of the city's newspaper, to take care of them alone. So, while he grieved his wife, he took great pains to ensure he was present in the lives of his 3 children. Satomi was his youngest child. His first child was already a man and chose to live on his own not too long after his mother's death. So Kyoji balanced his work life while taking care of Satomi and her older brother. Kyoji loved all of his children, but it surprised no one that Satomi was his favorite, probably because she reminded him of her mother, his wife. Friends of the family would recall Kyoji saying of his precious daughter, "I cannot imagine life without her around me." In school, Satomi had found a way to adjust despite her loss and probably because of her father's overwhelming love. Everyone who knew her said she was a bright,
shout out Kyoji.
Girl. Meanwhile, Nevada adjusted to her new life indoors and began distracting herself with a slew of new hobbies. And Satomi was there to help as much as she could. When Nevada came up with the idea of creating a website using basic HTML code, they worked together to set it up, and when the website became Nevada's outlet for sharing her interests with anyone who cared, Satomi frequented the comment section, supporting her
how
friend.
relatable Nevada is.
Nevada's interests were rapidly changing. She now had an almost rabid love for anime. Then she went from harmless anime to a morbid fascination for horror movies, binging on one horror flick after the other. The horror genre is not intrinsically bad, but Nevada was just 10 years old at the time. She had
everything she interested in, I'm interested in, and I'm not a serial killer, bro. Like, that's tough.
So one could conclude that those movies were definitely not the healthiest type of media a child her age should be consuming, let alone binging. However, the situation was about to get worse. As Nevada progressed through her horror bender, she stumbled on a classic horror flick called Battle Royale. Battle Royale is a Japanese horror slasher film that tells the story of a group of school classmates who are given weapons, dropped on a remote island, and ordered to fight to the death in order to survive. It is essentially a film about kids killing kids. I imagine that the film must have been the worst fit for Nevada. At the time, she was harboring deep feelings of abandonment and resentment toward her classmates, who she imagined were having fun without her, despite the fact that it was not their fault. Nevada would lose count of the number of times she watched and rewatched the film. And soon, the situation around her growing obsession with horror got even worse. A little while later, Nevada moved on to gore. She became so obsessed with the gore genre that she repurposed her website to serve her gore obsession.
Jesus.
She shared horror and gore-related articles, videos, animations,
I'm gonna make a website too, bro.
Including fan fiction about her favorite
I don't know about
Battle
what
Royale,
though.
and strange recipes with names like Curse of the Purple Skull and Demonic Art. Eventually, her gore website made her popular amongst kids in her school. Nevada became so popular that Satomi was no longer the only person commenting on her website. Her classmates joined in, and soon she had a lot of traffic from people who appreciated her content. Humans and the internet have never been the perfect mix, especially not when you are dealing with kids. While Nevada was enjoying her newfound fame, hate crept into the comment section, and sadly, it came from the list of people. According to Nevada, Satomi grew jealous of her, and this led to a terrible argument between the two friends that caused them to stop communicating. Their relationship worsened in a chat room when Nevada found that Satomi had been talking about her behind her back, calling her Burako, which is often used as a slur to describe a girl who deliberately acts cute to hide the fact that she has nothing in her head. Hurt, Nevada confronted her former friend and demanded an apology from her, but Satomi refused and instead doubled down publicly, calling Nevada a pretentious being. Sticks and stones, eh? According to Nevada, her only
Gonna
friend
call
had
her a
betrayed her,
thotty.
and now she was a sworn enemy. With time, Nevada began to take out her frustration on everyone. She adopted a me versus the world approach to life, and that made her turn hostile toward everyone at home and in her class. Sometimes, she would even go after the boys, aggressively hitting them and bashing their heads into walls. She was also a menace in the playground, and soon, she
She's a
succeeded
menace.
in alienating everyone. Around this time, her mother decided to allow her daughter to play basketball again, either because of her antisocial behavior, her improving grades, or both. Nevada tried, but she quit almost immediately. A sport that had once been the center of her life had now lost all of its
Damn.
appeal. What changed? Well, according to her, she no
Can't
longer
even get
enjoyed
the
playing
ones
with her
no
friends,
more.
so there was no point in engaging in the sport. She also refused to participate in the arts and crafts that she had shared with Satomi. Instead, she voluntarily continued spending her free time indoors, consuming horror, gore, and posting on her website. Then Nevada found another obsession, a TV show called Monday Mystery Theater. As harmless as the name might sound, it was a fictional show about characters trying to solve gruesome, graphic, and gory murders. It was practically the gore genre with an extra step. Again, not a show that any child should watch regularly, let alone get addicted to. In the show, there were many cases of people being attacked and killed with box cutters, which is
Yo,
something
this
that
shit look
resonated
fire.
with Nevada and inspired her to threaten a male classmate in school one day with a similar box cutter. If you believe violent shows can sometimes influence violent behaviors, then you might feel justified at this point, because there was no other explanation for this incident. However,
There's a movie I watch with a Japanese girl who is an assassin, who been killing niggas with a box cutter, bro. I forgot the name of it, but like, is this what it is about, bro?
However, nothing was done about the threat that Nevada made. The situation was brought to the school's notice, but no one addressed it properly. Everyone just brushed off the incident like nothing serious had happened. In the coming days, the school would pay for that oversight. Less than a week after threatening the boy with a box cutter, Nevada got another mean comment from Satomi on her blog where she poked fun at Nevada's weight. Satomi quickly deleted the comment, but
Not
Nevada
the
had already seen
weight,
it. So
yo.
she responded, "I will kill you." On the 1st
Asian
of June
people and the
2004,
weight, bro.
Nevada arrived at school with a plan.
Japanese,
When
whatever.
lunchtime came, Nevada approached
Shit.
Satomi and told her that she wanted to show her something in an empty classroom. So, Satomi followed her out of curiosity. The moment they were in the classroom, Nevada shut the door behind them and told her to sit on a chair. Satomi sat on the chair. Then Nevada asked her to close her eyes, but Satomi began to get suspicious of her former friend, so she refused to close her eyes. Suddenly, Nevada covered Satomi's eyes with one hand, and with the other, took out her box cutter and dug it into Satomi's throat, smashing it
Jesus.
roughly. It happened so fast that Satomi had no time to react, as she slumped forward bleeding. But
Jesus.
Nevada wasn't done with her. She then slashed Satomi's wrists and waited, watching her classmate and former best friend bleed to death. Moments later, she would walk casually through the school hallway, toward her classroom covered in blood. Everyone was shocked to see her the way she was, especially
Shit
her
sound like
teacher,
a movie,
who was just
dog.
about to report their absence to the school authorities. As Nevada stood by the doorway, her teacher's immediate reaction as she rushed over to her was, "Did you hurt yourself? What happened?" But Nevada answered her teacher with a calm but eerie response. "This is not my blood." Then, the teacher remembered that another student was absent from class. "Where is Satomi?" It didn't take long for the teacher to find the poor girl. Some reports say that Nevada led her teacher to the classroom where the girl was, and some others say the teacher found Satomi's body herself. Whichever it was, the fact remains that the teacher came face to face with an almost unbelievable situation. An 11-year-old girl had just murdered her former best friend in cold blood.
That's
In the
tough,
aftermath of the
man.
crime, the school went into a state of shock and disbelief as they tried their best to handle the situation properly. They called an ambulance first. Then, they called the police. Then, they sent word to Satomi's father, informing him that his daughter was hurt. By the time the ambulance arrived, Satomi had already died from severe blood loss. One of the paramedics on the scene tried to take the girl's pulse, but couldn't because Satomi's neck was cut so deeply, one could technically say she
Damn,
was
bro.
decapitated. Meanwhile, Kyoji Materi arrived at his daughter's school, only to be confronted with the painful truth. When I arrived, he said, Satomi was already lying there, collapsed. I couldn't believe what I was seeing.
Yo,
can't
I
put in
could
words what I'm feeling.
not imagine
I
what
can't
Kyoji's
understand it
going
at
through
all.
right now,
I
bro.
don't have a clue. Later, he would tell investigators that his daughter hadn't told him about any issues with any of her classmates. And even though he was made aware of the identity of his daughter's killer, he was able to see past his grief and ask the investigators about Nevada. These were his exact words. I don't know what went on between the two. She is in the same grade in school as my daughter, so I don't know how much she understands. But when things settle down, I'd like for her to explain what happened. Meanwhile, the police arrived and arrested
Kyoji's
Nevada Tan.
too
Technically, she
nice,
wasn't
bro.
arrested
It's
because
too
Nevada was
good,
only
bro.
11 years old at the time, and the age of criminal responsibility in Japan was, and still is, 14. In the meantime, Nevada's remorse was immediate. She kept on saying sorry as they took her to the police station. When she was asked who committed the crime, she admitted to being the culprit. But when they asked for intent, she wouldn't talk. She also wept a lot and refused to eat. But after spending the entire night at the station, she accepted some food and opened up about the murder she had committed. At first, Nevada told the police about the mean comments that Satomi had left on her website. Then she gave the police a detailed account of the plans she had set up in the days leading up to the murder. This was when everyone realized that the murder was premeditated. Nevada had been planning to kill her friend for at least a week. She planned how she would lure Satomi to the classroom, down to the weapon she'd use. She went on to say she even weighed her options, and this was deemed the best path. 4 days before the murder of Satomi, on the same day that she threatened a boy with a box cutter, and on the same day the school overlooked the violent incident. Nevada's original target was Satomi, but she changed her mind at the last minute. And you can probably guess at this point what inspired her. Nevada said she saw the box cutter being used in a similar fashion on the murder mystery TV show and thought to herself, I can do it that way. Throughout the interrogation, Nevada was visibly distressed. Even though the mean comments had triggered her, she would later admit that she didn't know why she had done it, adding that if she had given it more thought, she would not have carried it out. She said to investigators,
She just got
I didn't
emotional.
think what she wrote on my homepage was funny, so I called her out of the classroom. I meant to kill her. After interrogating Nevada, the police went through her website and found that it harbored a loathing for a number of her classmates. On her website, she had written, "They are despicable, stupid people. I am so sick and tired of my class." Speaking about one classmate, she wrote, "So stuck up and so ugly and fat." On another occasion, she had written, "Killing humans is unforgivable and I won't do it." Well, what crap are you talking about? While the police were sorting through this baffling case, Nevada's parents were distraught and tried to make amends by issuing a written apology to Satomi's father. But Kyoji refused to read it and spoke through his lawyers, who told Nevada's parents that he was not yet ready to accept an apology. Instead, the grieving father began writing open letters to his daughter as a coping mechanism. In the first letter he wrote, "Satomi is just not here, and it feels so strange to me. Whenever my back
Okay,
was
so
to
he's not
I
that
would
nice
call
then.
Satomi. She would come over, no matter where she was in the house, saying, okay. The reality that, no matter how much I call her, she will never come, is gradually dawning on me." Then he
But I
appealed
know
to the public
he's
to respect his
going through
daughter's
it right
privacy
now,
in
bro.
an open letter. He wrote, "I may be selfish, but I think that reports of this case could stand as news reports without mentioning my daughter's name or including photographs of her." But that was not going to happen. Nevada and her murder case quickly became an internet phenomenon and cult symbol. The horrific nature of the case drew the attention of many people. Many articles covered her website, and pictures of both girls were peddled around the media and the internet. Users of the Japanese online community named 2chan were the ones who gave the little killer the nickname Nevada Tan. Nevada because of the sweatshirt Nevada wore during the murder, and Tan being the way a child would pronounce the word Chan, which is used to refer to young girls. Meanwhile, the government tried its best to keep Nevada's identity a secret, but
Shit.
the media did what the media always does. The girl's name was accidentally revealed on a Fuji TV picture broadcast, and members of 2chan publicized
Just
her
eat it up.
identity on June 18th, 2004, just 17 days after the murder. And after analyzing the broadcast picture, Nevada Tan's real name was eventually revealed to be Suji Natsumi. With time, the online obsession took on a life of its own and went global. Thousands of fan artworks and memes drawn in the likeness of Nevada littered the internet. However, they were always drawn with blood on it and a cutter in her hand.
Tough.
It was a sort of
So
coordinated social depravity that would cause you to migrate if you tried to wrap your head
I
around
think
it.
it's
People were treating the little
the
killer like a
same
superstar and essentially worshiping her. But it didn't stop at
as the
memes.
movie,
The
bro.
internet
No
also
lie.
busied itself with theories
I think the
and fan
movie and
fiction
this
tales
related.
around why Nevada committed the act of murder. And one bizarre theory that kept creeping up had to do with something called the Red Room Curse. The Red Room Curse is a Japanese
Never heard of
urban
it.
legend that started in the late 1990s. And while there are different versions, the most popular one centers around a pop-up ad that appears on its victim's computer screen in the form of a red box. If you close the ad when it pops up on your screen, it will automatically reappear, showing a different letter each time
Tough.
until it spells out a full sentence that translates, "Do you like the Red Room?" Immediately, the person reads this. It is believed that the individual will go unconscious and will later be found dead in their room with their walls painted red with their blood. On Nevada's computer, an animation of this terrifying urban legend was the first bookmark found. And despite the fact that
Damn.
Nevada had already revealed why she
Yo,
committed
she was
the
in
crime,
it
many
deep.
people on the internet indulged this superstition. Meanwhile, people turned their obsession to Nevada's appearance. The girl was wearing a Nevada University hoodie when she committed the crime, and soon enough, a lot of people began dressing like Nevada
Tough.
Tan for Halloween. The demand was so high that the university had to pull back supply out of respect for the victim. But the depraved section of the public was bent on immortalizing Nevada Tan. A German rock band got the closest to this when not long after the incident, they renamed their band Nevada in honor of the 11-year-old. On the other end of this obsession spectrum, real issues were being discussed. And the major one was the issue of criminal responsibility.
Shout out to Twisted Mind.